Hello, I am Kristina Joksimovic from NGO Zero Waste Montenegro, and today we have an interview with Marin Zver from Reuse Center from Ljubljana. Marin, thank you for your participation in this project. And now we will start with questions. So, first question is, how does your organization define the role of civil society in reducing water pollution?
Well, our organization has sort of two ways it does this. One way is through its outside way by educating people. So we work on many different projects, also our own ideas and aspirations, of which all of the goals are to teach people generally about environmental protection, but also about water pollution. We have some projects where we specifically work on this, but the main thing is we just try to teach people, regular people, because what we believe is that, yes, of course, big companies are the big polluters mostly, but the people who found these companies, who buy their items, are regular, normal people. So we want to reach regular, normal people to tell them that the less they buy, the more they reuse, the more they reduce their consumption, the better there will be less water pollution, and generally it also to take care of them by themselves. So not to throw waste away, to recycle, to manage waste, and just things like that. This is how we try this is our role pretty much in civil society. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What are the biggest sources of water pollution in the region where you operate, and how do you believe they can be reduced?
Yeah. So I do not have any official sources currently, but the biggest sources, from my knowledge in our region, are definitely different companies, especially in the city, one of which is Slovenia, where we operate. There have been problems of industry here polluting the local rivers by just directly dumping waste and chemicals into them. Thankfully, I mean that started being controlled more now in the past few years, unlike it was 20 years ago. So I would say that's the biggest polluter. So different companies not really caring about pollution, about the environment, and just realizing it's cheaper to just dump chemicals and similar things outside than to treat them properly. Well, how we believe it can be reduced by well, good regulation and also by everyone. I mean, if you see pollution, if you see it's being done by a company or organization, report it to the police, report it to the government, so the company can be examined and it can be stopped. But also by us, by not throwing trash everywhere, by keeping aware, like where we put things, even things like cigarette butts. They're a big problem because people, I would say, really don't see them as trash, and it's so normal for people to just throw them away, throw them on the floor or into a river. I would also say that's a big problem. So to just educate people and also to educate companies and to make them realize that profit is of course important, and even our company needs it to survive, but it's not the number one thing in the world, and the number one thing is the environment and our health. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Okay. How does your organization approach the issue of plastic pollution in rivers and seas, and what are your plans for mitigating that issue?
Our main thing is about plastic. Well, there's lots of it, and especially the thing we deal is with plastic that you can reuse. So toys and similar products, or also electronics now are filled with plastic. It's full of plastic, and the problem is, I mean, once you put it, for example, for recycling, or if if it gets exported, it can likely end up in rivers and seas. What we try to do is we try to reuse as many materials, many things as possible. So we have four different reuse shops, and we collect as many products as we possibly can to put them back into the market, to stop new things being produced, and to stop these things, hopefully not to for them to go into the rivers and seas. Currently, we don't have any direct cleanups or similar things, but we try to teach people, well, of course, not to dump things, and we try to work with different local stakeholders to work on this issue, especially the issue of companies. Because the thing is that if someone throws a bottle into the river, they're polluting. But the bigger problem is if a company throws 1,000 bottles into the river. So we really want to address this a bigger scale problem of reducing pollution by companies, and also to teach people, because of course in these companies there are people, and to teach them the importance of not polluting and to keep our rivers and seas clean.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. How do you engage local communities to actively participate in the fight against water pollution at the local level? And do you have examples of it?
So we engage with different people, with different organizations on the local level. While we work with many municipalities, in the municipalities we work in, we also work with different youth groups. We also often have different tours. So we mostly focus on education because that's what we believe is our strength point, to teach people, to teach children, to teach just groups and groups of people about reuse, about ecology, and how to stop pollution at every level, at also at the local level. Currently, we had some groups, especially through our project e-waster, where we're explaining such things, especially addressing the problem of e-waste and polluting the waters. So mostly through that, because we very much like cleanups, and I personally also have been a part of some cleanups, but we believe that the thing that should be done is to not get this waste into the sea at the first time, because a cleanup is sort of a second thing, a thing you do to fix to fix the issue that occurred, not to fix the source. And we really want to get to the source, to the people who commit this pollution, to the companies that do it. So that's sort of how we do it.
Okay. What are the biggest challenges you face in engaging local communities?
Well, there are many challenges. The first one is people not caring. Many people say, well, yeah, that's not directly my problem. That's someone else's problem. You should deal with it. You're paid for this, and similar things, because people do not realize that, I mean, the sources that we have are limited, and they see that all the pollution is happening in India, in China, in these huge countries, not in Slovenia. And yes, pollution is also happening there, but we also have to trust the problems here. So though the people generally not caring, not realizing the extent of the problem, I would say is a big challenge that we face. And also people don't underestimate their impact, sort of. They don't realize that what they buy will have to be then recycled, reused, or whatever. They just think that, oh, once I don't need it anymore, I put it away and it's gone. It's not waste because I put it in a trash can because I didn't throw it into the forest. So just people being sort of uneducated on the topic, and the bigger problem of people not caring about the topic and not willing to learn more about it. Yeah.
And which target population are you including? And what are age groups do they belong to?
So we include pretty much everyone. So from young kids that are 4, 5, 6 years old, to middle schoolers, to high schoolers. We often have college groups. We also have people sort of employed, sort of from between 30 to 50 years old, and occasionally, pretty rarely, also pensioners, people in retirement. So we pretty much get everyone, because we believe that pollution, reuse, and recycling is something that's important for everyone, because it's a thing that everyone has to contribute to, and it's something that affects everyone. So yeah, we try to work with everyone who's interested, and that we work with a large group of people, and the age group, all years, pretty much.
Okay. How can civil society assist your efforts in cleaning water bodies and river streams? Do you have any examples of this?
Well, I would say personally that the main thing, generally for to help our organization, any organization, work with the cleanups, or more importantly, the protection of different water streams and water bodies, is finances. Because what we do, what our this organization are, also I'm guessing yours organization does, is very hard financially. It's hard to get the finances in compared to other industries. So financing more controls, and generally controlling more what happens, keeping more an eye out on what happens. So to see where the pollution is coming from, to have more inspection on pollution, to work on this pretty much, I would say, and also more on education. So more education in schools, because the people who are today's middle schoolers, high schoolers, will in 20, 30 years be the directors, the leaders, the workers of different companies, and then they'll be in charge what happens to the waste that their organizations produce. So I believe it's very important to educate also these people, because sooner or later they will become the leaders of today's world, and to educate them on the problem, and for them to know that how should they treat waste, what should they do with it, and yeah, that it's important that it's not the first thing is of course the environment, and it's not worth it to destroy the environment to save some money or to make something a bit easier for yourself, to educate people on this. That's and if civil society can assist us with doing this, I think that would be great.
What are the biggest challenges you encounter in the fight against water pollution?
I would say level limited resources from funding from people. Well, you need many people, you need many controls, and also I would say maybe a lack of interest occasionally. Because of course some municipalities they have the basic things they have to do, and outside of things, so taking care of the environment or really caring about pollution is something that they don't really need to do. If they do it, it's good. If they don't, nobody will really care. So I would say that's a problem because they are not really much into it. Another problem, which I would say it's mostly solved today, is sort of corruption in this field of inspection and similar, that inspectors of for environment are bribed. I've heard that was also a case in our city where a local company was often polluting our water streams because the inspectors just were paid not care and similar problems. So I would say that founding not enough people in this work, and also the public municipalities and generally speaking the government not putting enough resources and not putting enough care into this topic.
Okay. Do you cooperate with industries and that are among the biggest water polluters?
So, yes and no, pretty much. We do not directly work with any industry, but we work with them all because we have a secondhand store, we have multiple. We collect all types of items, so mostly textiles, furniture, and everything. And textile, for example, the biggest thing we collect in mass is a huge water polluter. So by what we believe is every single shirt that we sell that is used is one less shirt that will need to be made new, and one less shirt, yeah, that will again have to go to waste. So that's how we sort of work with the industry, and we try to stop the pollution. And also, every single used T-shirt that is sold is also sort of a promotion, telling more people, oh, you can buy used items, you can buy used clothes. There is no need to constantly buy new things.
And what are the main
Yeah.
obstacles in cooperating with them, with secondhand?
So the main, yeah, well, the main obstacles generally maybe focusing on secondhand again. Finances. Secondhand is very expensive. You need many people. The prices are very low. So that's the main thing. And also generally with today's items, it's very little quality, especially in textile. We gather about 10 tons of textile every month, and about 80% of them, 80% of it, it's not suitable for reuse. So I would say that. So also implementing reuse and just materials not and items not being good enough for it compared to the old times.
Okay. Do you work together with government institutions?
Yes, we work with different municipalities. We work with also ministers and similar, either directly on different projects or indirectly helping them. Or we also work with our local waste collection centers, which are pretty much all public. We work with them with reuse to collect items that are still usable from them and reuse them in such ways.
Okay, and in what way and what challenges do you face because you work with government institutions?
So we work by doing sort of paperwork, meaning new like local action plans and similar things, and also by working directly, for example, with collection of items and such. So the challenges we face, I would say, is not being interested. A big challenge, for example, maybe not directly correlated to water pollution, but we often see that public companies or, for example, ministries, they buy equipment, they need chairs and similar. They could easily buy them used, but it's much easier to just buy them new, so they go for new. So I would say not enough interest in this reuse, which again it's also connected to water pollution, and just yeah, not enough interest and not caring about it enough, I would say.
Okay, and what is your stance on laws that regulate plastic waste, and how are you contributing to the development of these policies?
Yeah, well, we very much support the laws on plastic waste, and we, of course, would like even stricter laws, especially we would very much like laws regarding production, how much we import, because we believe that the amount of plastic we, at the end of the year, we end up in, for example, Slovenia, it's so much that reusing all of this, recycling, it's just too much that we do not just only focus on stricter laws, but and also items, for example, that biodegradable and similar, but to focus on alternatives that can be reused. So for different bottles that are reused, for all types of plastic to be switched out for items, for materials that can be reused. We believe that's very important because for every single plastic cup, you have to calculate that transport, the production, the recycling of it. But if you have a used cup, that's only once, and it can be used 1,000 times. Plastic cup is used once, twice, and that's it. So we would focus on this more on to change the materials in something that can be used constantly, pretty much without ends.
Okay, how do you measure the success of your efforts to reduce water pollution?
We measure our success mostly by the people who educate. So we have pretty much a collection of how many people, for how many groups we had, how many people visited us and learned from us, to how many institutions and schools we visited to teach people. So through this education, that's how we mostly sort of measure our success. How many people did we manage to educate on the topic of water pollution, why it's important, and why should we even care about it, and what and about our power at it.
Okay, what are your priorities when it comes to reducing pollution in water bodies?
Well, our first priority is, of course, reducing all of pollution from happening in the first place. That's why, for example, we do not have that many cleanups because we believe cleanups are important, but we do not believe that cleanups are sort of the solution. They're just helping to fix the problem that's already made. We want to fully fix it to sort of to again to educate people and to let them know how that they should use, for example, used items, and that they should reuse their items as much as possible, that they should avoid, for example, buying single-use plastic bags and similar, because by reducing this consumption, we believe we can do the most to reduce pollution in water, because pollution, at least in my opinion, it will always happen, at least in small scale. So I think the most important thing is to educate people and to prevent them to pollute, well, sort of to prevent them, because if they have items that they can constantly use secondhand and things that they can reuse and similar, they will pollute much less, pretty much. Explained well.
Yeah. Do you educate citizens about the impact of water pollution on the environment and health?
Yes, I mean, we mostly focus more on the direct, yeah, we focus mostly on directly on the environmental impact, not exactly so much on the health impact, but yes, we have different workshops, especially we focus on electronic waste, but yes, we educate them about the impacts that what happens with all these products that we consume constantly and that nobody really cares what they're going to do. And how they affect our water and how pollution, for example, in on the other side of the world, in India and China, can also affect our lives and how it does affect our lives here, and why should we actually care about it, not just say, oh, I can't see it, it's not my problem, pretty much.
Okay. Are you using technology to reduce freshwater pollution, monitor it, or raise awareness?
No, currently, we're not working so directly with water pollution, so we do not use direct technologies for this because we do not specialize in these things. We mostly focus on education, on teaching people, and getting as many products as we can back into the motion through circular economy to stop them by becoming pollution.
Okay. So you said you don't use technology. If not, why not? Why you don't use?
Well, I mean, we use technology, for example, in teaching is similar, but because we do not work directly on water pollution, on directly measuring water pollution, that's why. But if we had the chance to sort of start to work on this, to have the opportunity to work on a project or a similar opportunity for where we could measure water pollution, as we do with land, for example, then we would definitely use technology.
Okay, and do you think young people are sufficiently engaged in the issue of water pollution, and how can you further involve them?
I think young people are very much involved with the environment today and they very much care about it. But regarding specifically water pollution, I would say they are, but I would say not enough. So young people know about the problems of water pollution, but they do not know about the problems, for example, that textile does to water pollution, how much water we pollute with, for example, fast fashion and similar. So I would say they're not educated enough on the topic and they do not sort of care enough about it. I believe we could involve them more by just sort of different explanations, different workshops and similar, and also maybe yeah to actually show them what's happening maybe on the other side of the world because at least in Slovenia, for example, the environment currently is doing very well mostly and it's clean and it's good, but because the waste we create is pretty much it's in big quantities, it's shipped outside where it's not taken care of. So I believe that if young people saw that, then they would see differently. Because if Slovenia, for example, was heavily polluted, people, I believe, would act very differently. But now, because this waste is very often being exported, they just see, oh, it's not really a problem.
Yeah, so can
Hmm?
you repeat us how you involve young people, just to explain
We involve,
better?
yeah, we involve young people through different workshops. We go to different schools where we talk about water protection and environmental protection. And we have workshops. We have a repair cafe where we teach people, young people, kids, everyone how to repair items. Because if they know how to, for example, repair items, those items won't go to waste. And if they don't go to waste, the chance of them to pollute the environment is very, very low. So we work on this principle through education and through teaching.
Okay, so just a second. Okay, so question is, how does agricultural runoff contribute to water pollution?
Well, of course, agriculture and agricultural runoff generally contributes a lot to water pollution. I would say different agricultural activities, such as, for example, creation of cotton, they contribute a lot and they use lots of water. We would say which we would say it's a big problem. So we believe that focusing on more sustainable materials is a solution. And again, so first thing would be to focus more on sustainable materials, for example, silk, which uses much less water pollution, which uses much less water, I mean, and also to then use these items till the end because we work with textile a lot, and currently, if I'm not mistaken, textile in Europe, it's after about 8 months, it's bought, it gets pretty much thrown away, and it's for waste, for recycling, for reuse. And we would say this is a big problem because there's so many items, so many. products from textile that get thrown away, that are made from materials that cause big water pollution, and that they're thrown away even though they're still usable. And that's why then new items need to be created, which cause additional water pollution, and it's just an never-ending circle. So we work on two parts of this. So the second part is, of course, having our reuse store and working on getting as many items as possible back into reuse, back into the circular economy or an economy. And the first part is production of silk. So 2 years ago, we started with sericulture. So we also produce silk in smaller quantities. We personally do not do it for textile, but we make it for medical and cosmetical purposes. And during this, we also employ people with special needs. So we make this problem of water pollution into a solution for other problems. So taking water pollution and the problems it possesses, we turn that into an effective solution to employ people with special needs and to create jobs in rural areas and also to produce something in our own country. So to explain more directly, we started a center with silk where we produce silk. There, people with special needs work, so we create employment for people with special needs. And because this is in a rural area, we do something which is, we believe is very important, which is we create jobs in the rural area. Because in Slovenia currently, about half of the jobs available are in the capital in Ljubljana, which is a big difficulty with people, and also especially for people with special needs, because they would need to drive more than 1 hour from most places together, or they would need to pay 3/4 of their salary for rent. So by creating these jobs, we help the people and then we produce the silk. So this silk is very sustainable. It uses pretty much no water. It uses maybe a couple percent of the water that, for example, cotton uses, meaning it does not use water, but it also then does not pollute any water. So by creating this sustainable material, by using this sustainable material, and then by promoting and also doing reuse, we believe that we sort of make this full circle of stopping agriculture and the products it's made into polluting water.
Okay, and last question is how about household water pollution, pollution from households? Do you
Yeah.
have some
So,
opinion about that?
what about household pollution? We would say, especially compared to industry, it's not such a big problem, but still it's a problem, even though it's smaller. So, for households, we would say the most important thing is education, to educate everyone, because we all live in different households, to educate people, especially older people, to educate elders by educating younger kids. Because what we very often see is that if we educate kids, young kids, about the environment, about protection of water, they will then go home and then they will tell their parents. And when their parents will do something wrong that they know it's wrong, they will tell them. And because they're their children, they will very often pay attention to it and they will care and they will most likely do it differently. So we see this education as a very good way how to stop water pollution in households, to teach people what they should and what they shouldn't do, and to teach them while they're still young. Because what we see is that what people learn while they're young, they sort of stays with them, and it's much easier to teach them than just to teach someone who's older who will think, well, I don't care, it's not really my problem, someone else will do it, and a million other excuses. So that's pretty much how we do it, to teach young people and for them to then teach others.
Okay, so this is the end of the interview. Thank you for your participation and for your time.